Good afternoon, this is Henry Keane on UATV English, doing my best to explain hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. I'm asked and frequently what is the essence of the Ukrainian-Russian war. Please allow me to shape my explanation in a short story. Imagine you are a cliff climber, and your fellow cliff climber suddenly pushes you off the cliff. You cling to the cliff, you're about to fall. You see people down there and up there, everywhere around you. A lot of them, almost everyone, is sure that you won't last long, that eventually you will fall. They are just as sure about that as they were sure quite recently about that fellow climber of yours won't push you off the edge. Because he's great. Why would he do that? He has money. His culture is great. He's absolutely reliable, stable. You can definitely feel safe. Just don't provoke him. Attempting to climb the cliff in your own way. If you avoid provocations and do what you are told to do, then you're all good. The fellow climber is great and kind and won't push you off the cliff. But he does. So the crowd around you can't believe it's so nice. They were wrong back then. So to compensate for the previous mistake now, they are 10 times more sure again. You won't last long, no. And it seems like that might be true this time. Yet, with all due respect to the crowd's expectations, that kind of truth just does not suit you. Therefore, you're grasping to the damn cliff with your hands and feet and teeth if necessary, and somehow you manage not to fall. Moreover, you find a foothold. Then you start to crawl up. Faster there, slower here, but always onwards, upwards, meter by meter. Seeing your determination, courage, admiring your will for life despite all the odds being against you, the crowd below rejoices and raises money to buy you new climbing equipment. You need one indeed. It's just the crowd can't decide what it is you need the most now. New sneakers and the sunscreen, or the hammer rope and cliff wedges. You choose the latter. After a long and frustrating discussion, the crowd is united and finally ensures you got it. You just need to wait until they produce it. And you also need to come down to pick it up and learn to use it. But you can't. So finally they agree to deliver it to you, up there. But not all of it, because they are afraid to insult the climber that just pushed you off the cliff. Some are even not sure what has happened, really. They were looking the other direction and are not sure who pushed who. Maybe it was you who pushed him first. You object that it is you who is actually hanging over the edge right now, not that fellow climber. Yeah, that seems legit and obvious, yet it is not that simple. Maybe you staged it all and are ready to kill yourselves only to spoil the image of that fellow climber. Many are still in doubt. But you keep on climbing. So the hammer, the ropes and the wedges are surely coming soon. Everyone is sure about that, but no one knows when exactly it is happening. The only thing you know for sure, you will need a lot more of those things. Way more to get to the top of the cliff and claim your victory. Suddenly, the hammer and the ropes arrive. But no wedges. Some sunscreen instead. You keep on crawling upwards and onwards no matter what. To the very top. You can already see it. The victory you ought to achieve, so to survive and share it with all other climbers. So for it not ever to happen to any other climber anymore in the world, because the fellow that pushed you and others like him are closely watching how it all will end, and are not just watching. I guess you got the whole point. If for some reason you did not, well, rewind and watch it again until you do. Thank you, and let us move to further explanations. On October 2nd, 2023, a historic meeting of the EU Council on Foreign Affairs was held in Kyiv, attended by President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky, EU High Representative Josep Borrell, EU Commissioner Oliver Vahely, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, and foreign ministers from 27 member states of the EU. Europe takes a step forward. For the first time, foreign ministers, the EU member state holds a meeting outside the current borders of the EU, but within its future borders. As a candidate state and future member of the European Union, Ukraine expects to open EU accession talks by the end of the year. High Representative Josep Borrell emphasized the importance of holding this historic meeting in Kyiv, expressed solidarity with the Ukrainian people and assured that EU stands united in its unwavering support of Ukraine.
Our support is not conjunctural. It doesn't depend on the advances one day. It's a permanent and a structured support because we are facing an existential threat for Europe. An existential threat cannot be balanced by the sort de la guerre one day or another. The Ukrainians are fighting with all their courage and capacities, and if we want them to be more successful, we have to provide with better arms and quicker.
Ukraine and its European partners have discussed long-term financial support for military assistance to Ukraine, in particular to supply of air defense systems, modern fighter jets and missiles. President Zelensky has also urged Brussels to speed up political steps to impose new sanctions against Russia. We need more joint efforts to combat any schemes used by Russia to circumvent the sanctions. Any supplies to Russia that allow it to increase military production must be stopped. Europe's most important objective today is to ensure victory for Ukraine and full restoration of its territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders. Russia's war against Ukraine must end with a just and lasting peace, just as provided by President Zelensky's peace formula, as simple as that. Russia's occupation troops are desperately trying to break the pace of the advance of Ukrainians' defenders.
We took note that the Zelensky's President peace formula is the only peace initiative discussed in the international community. Others were mentioned, but they have disappeared. The only one that remains, the only one that attracts the attention and the work of the international community is President Zelensky's peace formula. It is, we can say, the only game in town. It is the formula. And we will continue working as European Union to make it more global and the basis for the future peace.
The armed forces of Ukraine have penetrated the primary Russian defensive line on the Zaporizhzhia front, located westwards of the fortified village of Verbove. Obviously, we're trying to widen the gap enough for heavy equipment. Russia's occupation troops are trying to show signs of advance on the northeastern front between Liman and Kupiansk to distract Ukrainian forces. The armed forces of Ukraine are using approaches that directly correspond to complex contemporary battles of the newest era. Ukraine's defenders, who conduct this counteroffensive without air support, are compelled to be highly adaptive, flexible, and able to change their actions in real time. Russia has spent months building the world's most formidable layered defense in depth and alongside the front line. Miles and miles of interlocking trenches, bunchers, barbed wire, concrete anti-tank barriers, and vast minefields significantly slows Ukraine's advance in the first month. And of course, it takes the lives of our warriors to advance. We urge our partners to provide Ukraine with additional air and missile defense systems to prevent further Russian missile and drone attacks on civilian infrastructure and people. Ukraine is grateful to all its allies for their support and assistance in the fight against Russia, which has evolved into an existential threat to the world, and it is obvious to it now. We use Western military assistance in the most transparent and responsible manner. Our focus remains on safeguarding Ukraine's sovereignty, deterring further aggression, and saving the lives of our people. The Ukrainian peace formula is the only realistic way to restore peace in Ukraine. The Ukrainian peace formula remains the only efficient and effective plan to restore Ukraine's territorial integrity and secure comprehensive, just, and lasting peace. The peace formula is gradually gaining support of the world's majority. This initiative aimed at not only bringing an end to Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, but also serving as a framework in resolving armed conflict worldwide and addressing pressing global challenges. In the process of the implementing the peace formula, a structure of 3 levels of coordinations, I envisaged meetings of ambassadors to Ukraine, national security and political advisors meetings, and the highest level summit of heads of state and government. We continue to work actively to promote the peace formula at all levels. Ukraine holds regular consultations with ambassadors accredited in Ukraine and continues the organization process for the third meeting at the level of national security advisors. After 141 countries supported the UN General Assembly resolution containing formula's principles, more than 70 countries and institutions are already involved in the process of the consultations at the different levels on the implementation of the peace formula into reality. In this context, Ukraine is also intensifying preparations for the Global Peace Summit and is working engaging as many leaders from all regions of the world as possible. It is important that the countries of Asia, Africa, the Middle East and Latin America will step up and use their weight and influence in the region to address the global security issues triggered by Russia's aggression and guarantee long-term international peace. No Russia's attempts to manipulate diplomacy or politics should ever get a free pass again. Ukraine would not accept suggestions to make territorial concessions or proposals which would lead to the frozening of the conflict. No way. We believe that the peace formula is the only effective plan to achieve just peace and call on all states of the world to support it. Time for more on UATV English. I just love multiple questions because then you have a multiple choice, of course. Today's questions is absolutely great. The question by our user: how did the Kremlin use the Wagner army in Africa? Which interests and aims did it want to defend and achieve that? How is the indigenous population taking this interference? You would probably have to ask indigenous people of Africa why they do not feel indigenous enough and led Russians to interfere. But I can give you a hint. Because Russians are armed. But there is one more thing, actually, and this thing worth to put it in easy terms. Russia is a power and dominance addict. To have and to hold is the main idea of the empire, whether Soviet one or modern Russia, today or 500 years ago. And since Russia can't achieve anything without weapons, it achieves what it can with it. It sells mercenaries of Wagner Group to whatever African people feel themselves more indigenous than others these days, thus ensuring its presence there. And frankly, if you ask this question to Putin, why Africa, he would not know what to answer. Why Africa? Resources? Well, maybe, but mainly just because we can, he would answer. And that is the very Russian way. That's it, folks. It was Henry Keane breaking the hard truth in easy terms for you in our weekly wrap-up today. Please do not hesitate to comment, like and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters the most to us. Stay safe and see you very, very soon.